Thank you. Well, howdy, folks. Howdy. If you don't know, this week we're going to talk about how to be a cowboy. Last week you done talked about how being a Sooner, about how having a goal, about how being a Sooner has you have a goal and you go for it. Talk about how Mr. Nehemiah, he had his goal of building this wall around Jerusalem, and about how he had to face battle and war in the middle of this goal. But this week we'll be talking about cowboys. Now, that is why, as you can see, I have worn the appropriate attire. From my cowboy hats down to my cowboy boots, I am dressed in the appropriate cowboy attire. Now, I got these cowboy boots for a shindig down at the high school when I was a senior. There's this dance kind of thing where I had to have these boots to dance with a partner. And ever since I've been in college, whenever I went to a two-stepping gig or some kind of country thing, wore these boots. And every time I wore these boots, you have to have, had a partner you got to dance with. And that'll be part of it. That'll be part of what we'll be talking about a little bit tonight. But that's one of the first lessons we're going to do is you got to have a partner to be a cowboy. And so the first lesson we're going to learn about being a cowboy, a real cowboy, but I'm going to get there in just a second. But first, I got to tell you what's not a real cowboy. Now, when I think of a cowboy, when a lot of people think of a cowboy, they think of a lot of things that aren't actually cowboys. But we think of them as cowboys anyways. So, we think about Old West sheriffs, and deputies. They're, keeping the law in a land full of bandits, six-shooters and rifles, and, shooting up all the bandits and keeping the law. But the thing is, that's not a cowboy. That's not a cowboy. It's not. That's just a sheriff. We also think about football teams like Oklahoma State or Dallas Cowboys. They are not. They're not cowboys. They're not cowboys. They may be named after cowboys, but they're not cowboys. And Pistol Pete is not actually a cowboy. I'm just saying, Pistol Pete's not a cowboy. He was a sheriff. We also think about, when we think of cowboys, Woody. Oh, yeah, Woody. From Toy Story. So the thing is, Woody's not a cowboy, nor is he a sheriff, he's a toy. Side note, Toy Story 4, that trailer dropped and it looks really good. But an actual cowboy did not fight bandits like a sheriff. An actual cowboy didn't play football or save Buzz Lightyear from Sid. That's not what an actual cowboy did. What an actual historical, an actual historical cowboy did was herd cattle. They, had a bunch of cattle and they took from one place to another. Now I know what you're thinking. Herding cattle? That's much cooler than all those other things like playing football and saving Buzz Lightyear. Much cooler. Much cooler. But again, the first lesson that you can learn from cowboys is that you need a partner, because cowboys are a team. Cowboys are a team. First lesson that you can learn from cowboys is cowboys don't do it alone. If your job is to herd cattle, if your job is to take 1,000 cows from Texas to Kansas, you're going to need a team. You can't do that by yourself. So you're going to need like at least a dozen guys around you. So cowboys never operate alone. Lone Ranger's not like an active like a cowboy, and it's not actually, he's not a cowboy. He's a ranger. But cowboys are a team. And so let me show you a diagram about how these things work. Ooh, fun diagrams. So see, there's cows in the middle. They're the ones with the horns. And then there's cowboys all around it, surrounding them on all sides. And so I'm going to point out a couple key guys. There's the point in the front. Nope, I'm not good. I'm not there yet. There's the point in the front. They're the ones who kind of guide the team, tell them where to go. And then there's the swing and the flank and kind of keep everybody together. They're important too. And then the chuck wagon down bottom left, off to one side. He gets all the food. It's very fun. And then there's the wrangler. He keeps all the extra horses in case, one of the Cowboys' horses gets tired. He has all the extra ones. And then there's the drag. They step in all the poop. They also go after all of the stragglers and all the ones that get left behind. And then in front is the trail boss. He's the one who, finds the best path for all the cows to go so nobody drowns and dies. So, all of them have to rely on one another to keep these cows together. All of them have to take care of one another to make sure these cows get from place to place. And they have to rely on each other, because the cows can't take care of themselves because they're cows. But each of the cowboys is different. Each of the cowboys has a different purpose, but each of them have a special things they do on the team. Just like us. All of us have a purpose. All of us are special and have a designated thing that we do on our team. So we're going to take a look at these different types of cowboys, because all of them are cowboys. They're all different types of cowboys. And the different lessons we can learn from each of them. And you may identify with one kind of cowboy more than another, or there's even times when we need to be different kinds of cowboys. So first up is the trail boss. Boom. That's the one in the front. See, he actually has a different stance than all the rest of them. He's a lot cooler. The trail boss is the guy. He'd go ahead of all the rest of them and find the right path. He's the one who would, scout up ahead, make sure that everything was safe, and he'd find the safest place to take everybody through, as a herd. He was also in charge of everybody's paychecks, and he was the trail boss was, the boss. So the other cowboys had to follow him, or else, they'd get lost on the way through Oklahoma. Or they might take the cows down a dangerous path where they drown. Or they might stop for the night in a place where there was no grass, and so all the cows the next day would be really tired and they couldn't really go that far. The trail boss was the one who made sure everything was going nice and smooth. And so the first thing we got to realize for a team, if we are on this a team, is that we gotta if we want to act like cowboys, we got to listen to our trail boss. And our trail boss is God. So God sets out this path that we're supposed to go down. It's a safe path. And sometimes we're going to have to go through those rivers, but God makes sure that we won't drown in them. God is out in front of us, and He has left us a guide on how to get through this life. And that guide is the Bible and the stories of Israel and Jesus. And so if we want to survive, if we want to go in this world and thrive, if we want to be a cowboy, the very first thing we got to do is follow our trail boss. He's the one who's looking out for us and making sure that we don't drown. And we have the best trail boss out there. Our trail boss is God. So next up, we got a big chunk of the gang. We got the point, the swing, and the flank. See, all of them are that's the big, most of them. And when you ever think of a cowboy, that's who you're thinking of. They're the bulk of the group. They're the main ones directing the cows. But if you notice how they'll lead and direct, they're not in front of the cows. They're not directly in front and kind of doing a follow the leader kind of thing. No, they're going along right alongside next to the cows. They come alongside them, and whenever they need to turn, they urge them to turn. Whenever they need to speed up, they are right next to them and speed up a little. And the cows in turn speed up a little. And then they stop, the cows stop. And so they're right alongside next to them, making sure that they follow the right path. See, most of the time, the best leaders, the most influential people in our lives, the ones who have the most say in the direction that our lives are going to turn, are the ones who will come along right next to us, who lead not in a follow the leader kind of way, but come alongside us next to us and urge us to turn, or urge us to slow down or stop, because they're the people who come alongside and are with us during all of this. They're the people who we trust and the people who are willing to come alongside us even though, we're cows. And so, There's a verse I'd like to talk about in Galatians 6:1-2. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, if you're a cow and you're turned the wrong direction, if you're pulling things out of the box, if you're going in the wrong direction, if someone is caught in sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. You who live in the Spirit should come alongside them and urge them to turn in the right direction. Gently. Not yell at them, not berate them, not judge them, but come alongside them gently and urge and restore them. But watch yourselves, or you also might be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you'll fulfill the law of Christ. See, part of our jobs as a follower of Christ, part of the job of a cowboy is to correct. The most effective way to do that is in love. We have to do it like a cowboy. Come alongside and nudge them back in the right direction. Urge them gently in love. See, okay, next, and then in terms of cowboys, we got the chuck wagon, fun, and the wrangler. So, they have jobs that don't look nearly as cowboyish. They're not the one, riding right next to the cattle and all that fun stuff. But they're more beloved than the others by the cowboys. See, whereas the other cowboys kind of corrected the cattle, that's what their job was. These cowboys were making sure that everybody was cared for. Made sure, the wrangler made sure that the horses were cared for. Made sure that they were in tip-top shape, and that when somebody needed a break, somebody's horse needed a rest, they could switch them out. And the chuck wagon was the most beloved of all of the cowboys, because they were the ones with the food. They made sure all the cowboys themselves were taken care of. They fed them 3 hot meals a day, and if one of the cowboys got injured, if for some reason they couldn't ride or they couldn't work or something, they rode in the chuck wagon. A huge part of what we're called to do, a huge part of what it means to be a cowboy, is to care for you. Cowboys care. Now that might not sound very cowboyish. It doesn't sound very cowboyish to, oh yeah, cowboys are really caring. It's not what you think of when you think of a cowboy. You think of, riding alongside in the rough times, and if you get a scrape, you rub some dirt in it. No, that's not what these cowboys do. Cowboys care. And like it says in Philippians 2, 1-4, therefore, if any of you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete in being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Now this is the part that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. See, it's so easy to look after our own interests. It's so easy to go after our own goals. It's so our own worries. It's so easy to go after our own things. But that's not how we take care of one another. That's not how we become a cowboy. See, in college, I especially had a hard time with this. My sophomore year at OU, the second year at OU, I moved out of the dorm rooms and moved into an apartment with 3 of my friends. That first semester, I was so worried about my own school, worried about my own social life, worried about the organization that I had signed up to help be a part of. I was so worried and focused on my own things. I was so focused on my own things that I didn't notice my own roommate, my own friend, my own brother in Christ, that he was just locked up in his room constantly. I never checked in on him. I never checked to see how I was doing. I was busy with my own things. I never knew that he spiraled into a deep, deep depression, and he'd become addicted to these video games that he poured 100 hours a week into. And if you don't know, 100 hours a week is a long time. I didn't know. I didn't know that he had done that, and I didn't really care to know at the time. I was too busy with my own things. After that semester, he dropped out. He went home, and he went to rehab. But I was too focused on myself during that time. I was too focused on my own worries, on my own ambitions, on my own goals, on my own troubles, to care about this guy. To care about this guy who lived 13 feet away from my door. To take care of one another, we have to help out our hurting brothers and sisters. We have to feed the hungry. We have to clothe the poor and shelter those in need. We have to. If we want to be the hands and feet of God, we have to care. And we're going to change the world if we do. And that's how we become cowboys, is because cowboys care. Now, the next cowboy that we're going to talk about is the drag. Now, they're the ones that step in all the poop. They're the ones who had to deal with all the poop. They were behind literally 1,000 running poop machines. That's literally what they were, and they were trying to make sure that any stragglers went back with the group. And they're the ones who, if one of the cows managed to stray off, they were the ones who went after him and brought him back. Now, if you haven't thought this by now, if you haven't, been church-minded enough right now, where you're just like, oh yeah, it's about to be something crazy. Ready? Cowboys are shepherds. Wow. Cowboys are pretty much exactly shepherds. I mean, they're both a bunch of smelly dudes who look after a herd animal who can't really take care of themselves. Except shepherds had sheep and cowboys had cows. Yeah. The only real difference is that cowboys rode horses and took their cows a lot further than sheep. Like shepherds normally took their sheep places. Like they transported them a lot further and had horses. That's literally like the only difference. And so there's a lot of things in the Bible about shepherds, not even about cowboys. But the thing is, they apply to both. And so there's this parable that Jesus says that applies really, really well to this type of cowboy, to the drag. It's a parable from Jesus' greatest hits collection, but it's one that you can't hear too many times. It's great. So Luke 15, 3 through 7 says, "Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders." You can't really do that with a cow. Joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. See, now that is precisely, that is 100% what these cowboys do, these drag do. They go after the cows that stray away. They leave the 99, or 9,900. They leave them and go after the one. Now, that's what God does. Jesus just said that's literally what God does. He goes after the one and leaves the 99 behind. Now, we are called to be like God. We're called to be like God. We are called to act like God, are we not? And if God goes after the one, if God leaves the 99 behind and goes after the one, are we not supposed to do the same? See, we know people in our schools, we know people in our sports teams, at our work. We know people in our families that are the one. We know that those people have left the herd and are headed towards some dangerous path, a path where they're going to drown in some river. And we know that that these people, we know these people. And if we're supposed to act like God, if we're supposed to be God's hands and feet, if we're supposed to be that, we're supposed to go after them. And we're supposed to try our darndest to lead them back. Lead them back to their Father. Lead them back to God. Lead them back to the trail loss. So, now I've gone over all of the cowboys up there. I've told you how the cowboys keep all the cows together. But I'm going to talk for a second about why they keep all the cows together. Now, just like any herd herbivore or plant-eating animal, cows are very, very attractive to predators. Pointy teeth. Take one. If you're a cougar and you take one down, that cougar has dinner for a month. All kinds of predators would just love to sink their teeth into a nice juicy cow. And it's the cowboy's job to make sure that doesn't happen. Just like the shepherd's job to make sure that, you know, lions and wolves don't take their sheep, it's a cowboy's job to make sure that, you know, cougars and bears don't take their cows. Yeah. And so that's the final thing we're going to really talk about tonight. The final thing we're going to learn about cowboys is that cowboys protect. Cowboys make sure that the herd is not going to be attacked by dangerous things. And if we are supposed to be like cowboys, then we have to protect our herd sometimes. But the thing is, God also protects us. See, in John 10, 11 through 15, it says, I am the good shepherd, the good cowboy, and the good shepherd, good cowboy, gives up his life for his sheep, cows. Hired workers are not like the shepherd, cowboy. They don't own the sheep, cows. And when they see a wolf, cougar, coming, they run off and leave the sheep, cows. Then the wolf, cougar, attacks and scatters the flock, herd. Hired workers run away because they don't care about the sheep, cows. I am the good shepherd, cowboy. I know my sheep, cows. Just as the Father knows me, I know the Father, and I give up my life for the sheep, cows. See, God has given up his life for us. We, in this situation, we are the sheep, cows. And God died on a cross. He gave up his life to protect us. God is a protector. And we're the ones he's protecting. See, Jesus is the good shepherd. He protects us from the wolves that are out there in this world. Now, this last part isn't exactly how to be a cowboy, but it's still important because sometimes we're not the cowboy, we're the cow. God is the cowboy who's leading us, caring for us, going after us when we stray away. He's the one protecting us. God is the cowboy who has shown us the path we need to take. He's shown us the path we need to take to get us where we need to be. And sometimes we just need to be the cow and follow. And sometimes we do need to be the cowboy, though. Sometimes we need to be that gentle leader that comes alongside. We need to be that gentle leader who comes alongside and corrects and leads. We sometimes need to be that encourager that genuinely cares about the people around them, that genuinely, actively cares for those who are in need. And sometimes we need to be the cowboy who leaves the 99. The cowboy who goes after the one, even if you think that there's hardly a shot in the world that they're going to come back to the herd. And sometimes we need to be the good shepherd that protects the flock. Sometimes we do need to be that protector that protects the flock from the wolves and the sheep and goes through that river and makes sure that they don't drown. See, we can learn a lot from cowboys. Cowboys are good teammates. Cowboys are leaders. Cowboys are caretakers. Cowboys go after the one. And cowboys are protectors. And if you want to be a faithful follower of God, if you want to be God's hands and feet, if you want to be like God, if you want to emulate that, you got to be a cowboy. You got to be a cowboy. Will you pray with me? Dear God, thank you so much for just this time that I just get to talk about cowboys. I get to talk about the times when that's the way that people got me. It's fun. God, thank you that there are lessons that we can learn from these things that may seem funny, may seem trivial, may seem irrelevant, but there are lessons that we can learn about you, God. God, please help us to be cowboys, to be the people that protect and care and guide and correct, God. God, please be with us this week. Please be with us these next few weeks as we try to be cowboys. And that you ultimately are the one who's protecting us, guiding us, and being the cowboy to us, God. In your name we pray. Amen.